Briefly about Medea, we're a 501c3 nonprofit educational organization. We have programs like this for the tech, industrial, and scientific workforce to educate them on entrepreneurship, business finance and operation, technology development and commercialization, all hopefully bring people together to network and collaborate. With that, I will introduce our presenter, who is Danielle Chan. She is the project and facility manager at Lab Launch. She is a proactive professional with a background in biochemistry and biophysics, with 6 years of expertise in plasmid design, engineering, and optimization for TCR T cells and cancer research. Danielle's educational journey includes graduating from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute and a prior stint.
Rensselaer.
Did you go there, Bob?
No, but I lived, well, back in my area.
Okay. Anyway, prior stint at Bystroff Labs, where she focused on the design of GFP-based biosensors targeting dengue disease. In her current capacity as project manager, she takes on the responsibility of overseeing a dynamic laboratory facility in Los Angeles, which we'll hear about, where this facility and that one, where she manages facility and laboratory maintenance, project coordination, and incident response. Originally from Singapore, Danielle is deeply committed to expanding the Los Angeles biotech ecosystem and is dedicated to ensuring the success of the companies within Lab Launch's facilities. So please welcome Danielle.
Thank you for that great introduction. I'm Danielle, and welcome to Lab Launch. I'm just delighted to see you all here for this presentation. As Bruce said, my background is biochemistry and biophysics, and I've spent quite a few years in R&D. And I actually used to work at one of the companies that got its start here at Lab Launch a few years ago, but I'll go more into detail on that later in the presentation. So here at Lab Launch, we specialize in creating and managing wet laboratories for the life sciences industries. Our headquarters are at this site here in Monrovia, California, and our goal is to support a vibrant ecosystem for biotech. I'm excited to provide you with a look around our lab later and some highlights to what Marie and I have been up to, and to showcase some of the companies within our space currently and who have graduated from our space. So a little about us. We opened in 2015, and over the course of those 8 years, we've had about 40 companies go through the space, with about 9 companies on site at the moment. The companies within our space have raised over $810 million, and we have a new site opening in Atwater later this month. So our primary focus has been supporting life science companies, but we're always willing to talk to whoever reaches out to us. And interestingly, we're seeing a lot of clean tech coming into the area from out of state. So for our Monrovia headquarters, I'm going to offer you a walkthrough through our site later, but for those of you on Zoom who can't see our space, we have an open office outside connected to a main laboratory. Our incubator provides access to equipment such as VSCs. We have fume hoods, freezers, centrifuges, and TCR machines, as well as other things in the lab, with four private suites that are currently all full. So in our open office area, we provide a bookable meeting and conference room, which we're in the conference room right now, a lounge area, and on-site staff available 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday to Friday. We actively try to cultivate a sense of community through monthly seminars, talks, and events for our members on site. And we also celebrate birthdays, holidays, whatnot, as they pop up. So our Atwater location is our new location, our turnkey and customizable private lab and office space. It is our site opening next month, where we offer 6 private suites in total, ranging from 700 to 3,500 square feet, complemented by a communal break room. In 2020, we experienced a high demand from companies hitting that growth stage where they needed their own private space, and they needed fully equipped wet lab space that is built out for them. For a startup requiring that space, that can be kind of challenging to find within LA. And to move from an incubator into your own space seems to be that missing step that this location hopefully bridges within LA and greater LA. So my old company would actually be a great example of that. In 2019, we ended up having to look around for spaces. We couldn't find a laboratory space that was built out. We needed probably 8 times the space we had here at Lab Launch. And the only solution at that time was really to build ourselves out our own facility in Alhambra with Hatch Biospaces. And we had to do the construction ourselves. We did the GMP build out ourselves, and that was a little bit of a mess, a lot of delays. And hopefully with our new Atwater sites, companies don't have to allocate a significant portion of their seed or their Series A, Series B towards building out their own lab space, and it allows them to concentrate more on reaching their next milestone. So for this site, we have our first tenant moving in January, knock on wood, from Boston. So if anyone wants to take a tour of them in the future, just reach out to me before we have tenants, and I'm more than happy to give you a walk through there. So talking about partners and service and what Lab Launch can offer, we put a lot of emphasis on our relationships with various partners and services to try and extend benefits, such as discounted rates on equipment and consumables for companies in our space. We take pride in facilitating conversations and connections to our members by offering targeted introductions to venture capitalists, introductory emails to IP lawyers that they can use, and linking companies with SBIR grant writers are a few things that we've done. Our unique concierge service is tailored to the diverse needs of every startup we work with, recognizing that each venture is different, whether it's in diagnostics or it's in T-cell cancer research. We don't want to adopt too programmatic of an approach to companies, all of which will come up against different regulatory pathways and different challenges. So instead, we focus on fostering strong relationships with the companies and gaining a deep understanding of each company's individual requirements. So I'm going to talk really quickly, or not too quickly, about 4 companies within our space currently, and two currently within our space and 2 that have graduated, this company being one of the ones on site. This company is one of our younger companies working here that maximizes the full use of everything. Let me move this to the side. Oh gosh. Okay. This is the company that maximizes the use of our connections. Extemix is working on an HDCR bioreactor. So to provide a little bit of a sneak peek into the niche that they fill, in LA, a lot of companies are doing cell and gene therapy. You've heard of Kite, Gilead, and Amgen. Accessing upstream production capacity seems to be the #1 barrier for most cell and gene therapy companies. So in the industry, there's a huge bottleneck in manufacturing cells from an R&D stage to scaling up for manufacturing for testing and clinical trials where you need a lot of cells. It can also be very costly. So some of the companies will choose to outsource the scale up, but there are also the issue of not a lot of companies being out there able to handle cell manufacturing to the scale that a lot of cell and gene therapy companies now need. So this is where the Extemix bioreactor comes into play. It supports extremely high cell densities at 100 million cells per mil, which might not mean anything to you guys, but I used to do cell culture work, and if I was doing a production run, I'm getting 15 to 30 million cells per mil, and that's a good production run for me, but they're hitting 100 million cells per mil, which is kind of crazy. So they really have the power to change how things are done in that industry. It uses a lot less space, less material, less personnel, and can reduce the cost of cell gene therapies overall. So if you're interested more in the science of it too, their poster is actually right outside our lab doors. So you can take a peek during the tour at what they've been presenting recently. I really like the company. And a cool thing I found out earlier is that it's a very small world. One of our old clients that was here maybe 3 years ago is actually using their products now for his trials. So Lab Launch has done a lot of introductions for Extemix, and they are a very communicative company that keeps us updated on what they're doing, on what's going wrong, and we really appreciate that. Currently, we're supporting them as they enter their next round of fundraising. So we're hoping for the best for them. Another company within our space is Acuristem. It's an example of a later stage company within our space. Extemix has maybe 4 guys on site. Acuristem is hitting around 15 to 16 people on site. They are very interesting too. They are doing a stem cell-based disease modeling platform, and it's a therapeutic strategy for PIC5 that focuses on addressing the neurodegeneration that is typical of ALS patients. So the founders are from USC Stevens Center for Innovation. So they have been here for 6 years now. Something very interesting they just announced is that they have recently signed a $580 million licensing agreement with Takeda to commercialize that PIC5 targeted therapeutics. So outside of the private lab space and discounts that they've leveraged in the space, they have really contributed greatly to the lab launch community culture. They've been a wealth of knowledge on running a lab, aseptic technique, and getting grants. I've popped over to their lab in the past with a question when I was still working in the lab, and they're always willing to help. So a great example of a company that has really blossomed and grown within this space. And going into graduate companies, this is one of my favorite graduate companies. I used to work for them for about 6 years at TCR Cure Biopharma. They got their start here in Lab Launch, and they're dedicated to advancing cancer immunotherapies and controlling tumor progression through TCR cloning, T-cell genetic engineering, and large-scale immune cell manufacturing. So my journey with TCR Cure began in 2018 here, when we were just a small R&D team, where even our director was running tissue culture work in the lab with me. Since then, they've achieved remarkable growth. They've raised well over 52 million. I think they haven't announced how much they've raised recently in funding, but they have expanded to employ more than 100 people across North Carolina, LA, and Chongqing, China, where they're running their phase 3. So I just thought it was kind of cool to include their products and just how many products they have entering phase 1 and 2 trials, which is great for them. It's also a great example of a company using an incubator to launch successfully. My time at TCR Cure was very fun. It offered a lot of valuable insights into the role of working at Lab Launch, especially as a biotech company transitioning through growth stages, moving from a startup within an incubator to a dedicated space that we have to build out ourselves came with a lot of challenges. The shift from bench work to suddenly having to do lab management, addressing concerns like our own hazardous waste management, fire and building safety, equipment maintenance, everything that Lab Launch would handle for us suddenly became things that we had to do ourselves. So those experiences definitely underscored the crucial role of incubators in nurturing companies, creating a vibrant working environment, and fostering a company culture that makes coming to work just so much more enjoyable. So yeah, it was very fun working with them, and I took a lot of my success at TCR Cure to my time here at Lab Launch. And the final company I want to talk about is the second company to actually make it to Lab Launch in 2015. So Corba was the second company here at Lab Launch and the first successful exit. They were bought out by Curative. So in 2015, they were doing analytical testing for banned substances in sports. And a really fun fact is the founder, Jonathan, was the guy who caught Lance Armstrong doping, which was funny tidbit, but that was before he started the company. After 2 years at Lab Launch, they moved out to San Dimas in 2017 to build out their own CLIA laboratory space. And in 2020, this is a really long story, when COVID hit, Lab Launch introduced them to Curative, who needed CLIA lab space. Typically that takes 1 to 2 years to build. It's this whole process. And within 4 weeks of that introduction, Curative and Corba Labs partnered, developed an assay, secured FDA approval, and opened a COVID-19 testing lab that could provide 5,000 tests a day. In 2 months, so by April of 2020, they had run around 250,000 tests in total and reached ability to process 14,000 COVID tests daily. So in May 2020, Curative bought out Corba Labs. So by 2022, Curative was doing 25% of all the COVID testing in California. So if you've gotten a COVID test here in California, 25% chance that Curative was the one to process that test. And to continue on the story, Paul and Jonathan, the founders, started 2 spin-off companies after they got bought out, Avrock Biosciences and Corba Scientific. Corba Scientific used Lab Launch for a few months in 2021 to start up a new company, also focused on anti-doping, and they moved out to Azusa, so they're still within the area. And Avrock Biosciences specializes in biobanking and sourcing human samples for companies. I don't think they're in the area anymore, but they will be coming in to do a seminar for our companies on site in a few weeks. And I find that kind of fun that it's a very small circle. We all sort of stay in touch with the companies and they give quite a lot back to us. So done talking about the companies, now to transition from talking about it to talking more about future and like sort of what we're hoping will happen. I'm going to share a little bit of data that I saw earlier this week at a Bioscience LA event that makes me quite excited about the future of LA. Oops, too far. So, according to the world's most comprehensive startup ecosystem map and research center, LA represents about 9% of the United States startups with 3,848 startups. In addition, LA is the third best startup ecosystem in the United States. San Francisco being first, but we beat out Boston, so Boston's fifth, which I thought was kind of fun. And how does that tie into the life science industry? My next slide with Biocom will cover that. So let's go that. In 2022, the city of Los Angeles secured over 1.1 billion in NIH funding, which sort of underlines the city's pivotal role in the life sciences. The greater Los Angeles cluster boasts over 3,900 life science establishments and employs around 97,000 professionals and contributes about 61 billion to the regional economy. So our proximity to academic institutions such as Caltech, USC, and UCLA, which produces highly talented graduates who want to remain within the area, is one of LA's assets. With this talent pool and the budding vibrant life science ecosystem, I truly believe LA is uniquely positioned to take a lead in life sciences. Because when you think life sciences, you don't really think LA still at this point, but I think we're probably on the cusp of being able to bring in a lot more companies. So, and how does this tie into Lab Launch? We aim to continue to provide greater support to our scientific founders, retain companies within LA, and to attract more biotech ventures from across the United States and around the world. We're getting interesting queries from companies from Taiwan at this point, Korea, and whatnot. So by doing so, we not only strengthen our own local biotech industry, but we contribute to the growth overall for everyone. So we hope the Atwater and Monrovia site fills that niche, and more importantly, opens the door to more companies choosing LA. So before I open the questions, I'm going to answer the question we get a lot, and that is what sets us, Lab Launch, apart from other incubators. And I want to say that it's our focus on community. While we do admit companies in our space are very cell culture oriented, we want to network and provide partnerships that extend far beyond this niche of being in cell culture. And we believe we are able to provide companies with vital resources and the connections they require. So this means our approach includes cultivating long-lasting relationships with companies and other people in the around us that can commit to supporting companies before and way beyond their initial incubation period and well after their growth into another space. And I would also like to put out there that we don't view other incubators as competitors. Rather, we prefer to collaborate and send companies to various other incubators within LA if they're not a good fit for our space. We're currently starting and working with an incubator network called Blaine around LA and going, I think, quite far out past Covina as well, where we believe we can strengthen the overall entrepreneurial system by just having conversations with other incubators. So our mission is to empower startups to thrive and succeed, and we believe in fostering a collaborative, supportive environment rather than a competitive one. And with that, I would like to express my gratitude to Bruce and Medea for coordinating this event. I'm thrilled to have the support of Medea to foster networking and collaboration around us. I didn't know this was a thing too. I'm really excited to hear about it. And I hope you learned a bit from my presentation. And if you have any questions that come to you at a later point, just always feel free to shoot me an email or Marie, and we're always willing to chat. So now if you have any questions, just go for it.
Can you repeat the name of the organization you're creating?
Blaine, I can send you a link
Blaine?
too.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are actually quite a lot of incubators. There's one in Orange County. There's a few in Thousand Oaks. We figured it was better for all of us to just try and support companies within the LA who want to come here.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
On the slide where you were showing employment and growth, one of those only had a negative growth, biopharma.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a reason why LA is not working well in biopharma?
I would not have an answer for you for that.
Right there, biopharmaceuticals. That's a negative growth.
I think, I forgot the name of who moved out, but we fairly recently had a larger company move out of the area who pulled back a bit, so that might be it. I would have to look into it for you. I got this information from Biocom, so they publish this information every year, and they're quite transparent about it.
So I'm curious about what the business model is for Lab Launch. Are you, so it sounds like basically, it's providing facilities, it's basically sharing costs, things like that. Are you exploring other sources of revenue to grow? I have a couple questions. Also, what do you expect your plans to be for the next 5 years?
So we don't just do laboratory management. That's what we switched from nonprofit to for-profit to do. You guys were probably here when you're still nonprofit quite a while ago. We are also open to helping build out laboratory space. University laboratory partners in Irvine, we actually helped build out their space for them. We partnered on it because they didn't have anyone with more of a science background or an experience in building out lab space. So that was a project that we took on. Next 5 years, I think for now, we're going to focus on filling Atwater space with growth stage companies, and then we would remain open to building more incubator facilities. For now, there seems to be a need for incubators in the Santa Monica area, so something we have sort of been throwing around, but of course, nothing has been set in stone for that. We don't exactly have the capital to, buy our own building and then do this ourselves. It has to be more of a someone reaching out to us and asking for us to come in and handle all the day-to-day operations and laboratory management. Did that answer your question? Or okay.
So incubator means a lot. So what all do you do to incubate besides have a facility and a roof? You do
A lot of connections, actually. It's turning out to be more of a like a networking people position than I anticipated when I first joined as well. So sometimes companies, I was just having a talk with someone who's looking to write their first grant, and they will need a space, but they won't need it until they get the grant. So at that point, it's like we could just say, oh, good luck, or we could try and connect them with the right person, which we are friends with an SBIR grant writer who they've been in contact with, who's hopefully going to push that company to getting their first round of money. And then hopefully they'll come into our space or anywhere in LA and then grow from there. So it's a little bit of like everything, finger in every pot. Like we introduced Extemics to a VC company like earlier this week too, hoping that they raise that Series A round of funding, things like that.
So you have an opportunity to participate in their growth economically, or you not take you, so you're not taking
Some
interest?
incubators require like a part of the company to take equity or something like that. We don't really do that. Yeah. So we've thought about it, but
Why not? I'm curious.
I think it scares off with quite a bit of companies too. If you're coming in from another country, like my old company TTR here, it would not fly at all. You have to protect your IP, and I think it becomes like for companies, sure, if you're small. If you're large, they're going to say absolutely not. And at this point, we kind of want to remain open to larger companies moving in from Boston, Texas, and just having an arm or a branch in LA. Not to say that we would never think about it. It just doesn't really make sense for us to require a part of your company to come into our space, because at that point, are we giving you enough to make that trade-off worth it? Can we quantify that? I'm not too sure. So, yeah.
How many total square feet do you have in this building and in Atwater? And
11,000 square feet for this building, 13,000 for Atwater.
what's the smallest tenant that you have, and what's the biggest tenant before they go somewhere else?
Our smallest tenant. So smallest tenant before they've left was maybe 8 people. And our smallest tenant on this site, who's been here forever, she's very sweet. It's Keiko. She's just a PhD postdoc researcher, just running her own research at this point. Largest company that will be at our Atwater space could be as small as 4 to 6 people. We have the company that's moving in, hopefully in January, is about 4 to 6 guys, and they'll be like sort of in and out of the office if they have a site in Texas as well. Largest suite is 3,500 square feet, so you could probably fit like 15 to 20 people in there between the office space and the wet lab space, if not more.
What was the reason you chose Atwater County?
That one's a question for Marie.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was a good opportunity that aligned for us. The building managers were looking to pivot from renting to more like photography studios to something a little more stable and secure, which laboratory rentals would definitely be more stable and secure. And the zoning played a huge part in it too, actually, because a lot of spaces that we could look at might not be zoned correctly. Yeah, any other questions?
So what does Greater Los Angeles mean?
I need to check that for you, get back to you, but I was pretty sure it went all the way out to Covina, because I was checking to see if it included this area as well, because we have this little hub over here.
One of our pet peeves is
Not
people
included.
define LA as stopping in Pasadena.
They went all the way up to Thousand Oaks with this little thing too, so I'm like, it had to include
Right.
Azusa, Monrovia, everything.
Is in Los Angeles County, so the greater Los Angeles is.
I think Greater Los Angeles, they included a lot of companies up in Thousand Oaks and all the way up to, I think, around Covina.
That doesn't actually, I don't think it's Ventura County, it's still LA County. isn't it?
Yeah, so then they had the little site map, I think that's what it encompassed.
So how do you, I mean, you had some successful exits from your facility as well as exits in the true sense of exits, but there's no publicity. How do we get Monrovia and San Gabriel Valley to know that they were the seed that hatched these
That's
successes?
true.
Seems like we're not doing a good job that way.
That's something that we've talked about too, because it's a small team. Marketing is always like kind of the toughest part as scientists too, because we don't have a business background, we don't have a marketing background, so it's always thinking about that. I'm not too sure, if I'm being honest. I think writing more papers is something that Marie and I are trying to push for, like more sort of like little like newsletters too. When we have more bandwidth, is that something we want to do?
Or, you know, I think thinking some of our web people, I mean, we can take our website and somehow, if you have a success,
Yeah,
we
you
can
can talk to
post
them.
it there and
Yeah.
So
build a history.
one of the things that caught my attention, one of my crazy questions was, do you have any YouTube stars yet?
No.
No YouTube stars. And the reason I bring that up, is there are some YouTube channels now with bio or graduate students that have access to wet labs, that are now doing funky things online to show you how to do things. And the last one that just caught my attention was creating the smelliest known thing in the universe or whatever. it was.
Wow.
And it was, I can't remember this.
You got a roll.
Yeah, it was something that was created back in the like 1890s, and there was a white paper on it, and he had to research a whole thing to come up, to figure out how to actually make these things together.
That's pretty fun.
And the bio person, it'd be kind of fun to research.
Making it more accessible to the public
Right,
too,
exactly.
is a huge improvement.
Going back to publicity, what about getting a regular, from like LA Business Journal, get a like quarterly placement of information in there?
Yeah, we are promoted through, I think LA Weekly did a paper on us actually a while back too, Bioscience LA. I don't know if any of you guys have gone into any of the LA Biotech Week events this week and next week, but yeah, it seems like a lot of the marketing is not great for us, but we can get better once we have more bandwidth.
We have a question on Zoom
Mhm.
from Vishnu. What's your pricing structure look like? Is it per person or per square foot or?
On our website, we're very open about the pricing, but for this site here, it is about $2,400 a month for a lab bench. We have no limit on people that you can bring into the lab. So if you're working with 3 people on a bench, it's going to be really crowded. We don't really recommend that, but if you really needed to, you could. And we've had companies come in at different hours. Sometimes we'll have people here at like 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. at night, way later, a.m., 1 a.m. and whatnot, to sort of just make it work with the lab space. For the private lab spaces, we charge that by the foot, and that one is more pricing on request. And since we have none of those suites available, I don't know if you want the price on that. We also do desk rentals in the main office as well. But if you rent a lab bench from us, we will give you office space as well. It's included in the price. And sort of with that, we'll handle your biohazard waste management, we'll handle sort of a lot of things for you as well. That just goes with running a lab day to day.
So part of the beauty of what you have with a shared lab space like this is the fact that you don't have to take a small company starting up, doesn't have to lease something for a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be.
Flexibility.
It's like, you know, you need it, you turn it on, you don't need it, you turn it off like a light bulb.
Mhm.
So I think that's one of the beauties of that. So the question I have is, you know, when we talk about lab space in Southern California, I mean,
Mhm.
when you define labs, they're all over the place. Is it a
Mhm.
bio lab? Is it a wet lab? Is it a dry lab? Is it, you know, just, is it a scientific lab?
Mhm.
What is it we're trying to get at? So there's gotta be, specialization in the startup industry, basically, that only focuses on a particular type of lab, like
Mhm.
life science labs, for instance.
Yes, so wet labs are the ones that people have a lot of trouble finding in LA.
Correct.
Yeah, office space, fine, everything else.
Do you find, have you guys thought, and since you're getting into that building business or trying to get a lab like this, a lab launch
Mhm,
model going someplace else?
mhm.
Have you thought about streamlining the process of going to the municipalities? Because so many municipalities will say,
Yeah.
well, you can do this here, but you can't do that here.
Mhm.
They'll put you through the paces, no matter where you go. You can duplicate something from one place to another. It's like,
Mhm.
well, it doesn't work here, sorry.
Yeah,
You have to start all over again.
I think that would be great if we could streamline it, but as you said, it's different from each place. Our Atwater one, we've actually run into a lot of trouble with LA County and the inspectors. Because it's zoned for it, everything should be fine, our permits are approved, but when inspectors come out, we get,
They have no clue.
they have no clue.
Right.
So, yeah, it would be great,
So would there be, you know, I'm just thinking of an idea of having a sort of a superstructure above the cities that you're in, that you're trying to locate in, to say, look, this has been approved in place A, B, C, D, and E.
Mhm,
Why are you putting us through the paces? Because there's costs that are involved with that. There's
yeah.
lots of time and effort are spent. And if you have to redo something, then that's
It's
even
expensive.
more money. It's really expensive. You can barely get it right the first time and don't go broke. Now you
Mhm,
gotta do it twice and you're expected to survive. It's like, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering if that is something that, you know, we could do regionally and say, look, if it's approved in this particular area, in this region, why are you giving us
yeah.
such a line of stuff?
That is a great idea, because Monrovia has actually been a great spot for this site,
Mhm.
whereas we've been delayed at Atwater for
Months?
months now, yeah.
Is that LA
So-
County or is it
Yeah.
city?
County.
It's not LA City.
So I had like an email conversation earlier this week about that.
Yeah.
Because we're getting dinged for a landscaping permit that was never on the project, and it's just like. We're building inside. Yeah, well,
So you're, from Singapore, do you still have the language skills? You can speak Mandarin or something like that, or?
I understand a little bit of Mandarin.
Okay, so
Cantonese.
I was just wondering if that was a real aid as you talk to Taiwan, you talk to other
It's
places.
been funny, because I think I sometimes sandbag with these companies, because they probably know what I'm saying in English too, but they're asking their translator and I know what they're saying a little bit. I don't have any little like. But I don't usually publicize it, that I know what they're saying.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the 580 million license that this company just got,
yeah.
that's over like, how many years?
That's if they hit the milestone over the next 10 years, but still, it's a crazy deal for them to get.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. They may not be here much longer with that kind of money.
I actually think they will be moving by the end of the year, which I think it's gonna be very empty in the lab without them, but I'm really happy for them. And they've gone from like 6 people, barely 5 desks, to 16 in like from January to now. So that's kind of crazy growth, and we're excited to see it.
Right.
You
Yeah.
put a large donation box as they walk out the door.
I wish them the best. We'll see them around. They needed vivarium space, so they will probably be in Pasadena for that at the Doheny Institute. So any other questions, or not? I can take you out for a walk to the lab.
Yeah, we can do a tour now, so. Which means we'll have to say goodbye to all our online friends, unless you wanna,
Any last minute?
Thank you, Bruce.
questions?
Thank you, Daniel.
any last minute questions? Did anybody miss a question they wanted to ask?
No,
Online?
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for joining us.
Thank-